Hey guys, I'm Wes.
And I'm TJ.
And this is our versus video between the 2019 and all new 2020 YZ250FX. All right guys, thanks for tuning in. So the 2020 YZ250FX is all new for this year and we are super excited. So Yamaha came out with the YZ250FX in 2015 and since then it's undergone little changes until this year, but they've really intended this bike to be an off-road weapon, able to do cross-country style racing, GNCC off-road aggressive style racing, but also be mellow enough to go hit the trails when you want to and really be an all-around performance machine, which we love about it. It's a super popular bike and we're excited to see how this new model stacks up against the older years.
So some of the things that the 2020 has that are updated from the 2019 and the previous models is one of the biggest things is the frame is all new. The engine is all new. It's derived from the 2019 YZ250F and it has a more concave radiator shape, so it's able to squeeze a little bit easier. One of the biggest updates to the new bike is the Yamaha Power Tuner App. That's something that came out on the 2018 YZ450F and it's finally trickled down to the 2020 250FX.
And the Yamaha Power Tuner app is really what I think has led to the success of Yamaha in the off-road industry, because you can really dial the bike in perfectly for your riding conditions. So mellow it out if you're hitting the trails and the gnarly stuff, or dial it up for more aggressive racing scenarios.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put these two bikes head to head to see if the 2020 lives up to the hype, and also to help you guys so that if you're on an older model, you can see if it's worth it to upgrade to a 2020, or if you're wanting to just compare it to the other manufacturers out there.
All right guys, welcome back. TJ and I just got off the bikes and we've been having a blast on these two bikes. We spent a full day of riding and really getting to know the bikes. So we've been swapping back and forth quite often, and that's just so we can get a feeling for the bikes, give them a good shakedown, and really get to know what's causing the differences that we are feeling, if we're feeling any. So I want to go through both bikes and give our pros and cons for each, and then we'll come back together for a conclusion. So TJ, first off, let's talk about the 2019. What were your pros for this bike?
So the pros for me of the 2019 was how smooth it felt. I think that was a lot due to the engine, but also the suspension was really plush. In one of the washes, I just felt really smooth the whole time. Those are the two things that I really noticed on this bike that I liked a lot. Another thing was just how planted it felt. In the whoops, there was one time when I thought I would have swapped really bad, but the bike just stayed perfectly linear and I was able to keep charging. Whereas before I feel like I might have gotten swapped and sketchy, but it was great. Super planted, felt great.
Yeah, and my thoughts are pretty much the same on the 19. It's definitely an awesome bike and it really is an all-arounded bike, but I think the biggest thing that I would noticed or was surprised with was the suspension. It definitely felt soft right when I swapped back and forth between the new bike and the 19, but it didn't really translate to everywhere that we rode today. We got into some pretty big and fast high-speed sand whoops, and it didn't do anything sketchy. Like TJ said, it was very stable at high speed. It did buck me a couple times, but I really was surprised at how well the suspension did in that gnarly stuff. So it definitely is softer, but still pretty impressive for what we went through today.
It's awesome.
All right, what didn't you like about the 19?
So the things that I didn't really like about the 19 was, first off, I felt like the gearbox, second gear to third gear, I don't feel like I was able to really get into second gear. I felt like I needed to instantly go to third gear when I get into second. I don't feel like it revved out as much as it should have, or it wouldn't have been as, I guess it wasn't as tall as I would have liked it to be. That was the biggest thing for me that I felt like on the 19. But really, other than that, that was it.
And for me, it really is picking the bikes apart, but the biggest thing I noticed was that it signed off faster than the 2020, and really we noticed that because we swapped right back, you know, bike to bike. So we were able to get in there and really pick the bikes apart, but it didn't feel as racy for me, and that's kind of how I like to ride, is in the throttle a little bit more and kind of let the bike do what it needs to underneath me. And I didn't feel that as much on the 19. It feels more like a well-rounded bike, capable of doing any type of riding, where the 20 for me, we'll get into this, but it definitely felt more racy. Okay, so now let's talk about the new bike. What were your pros for this bike?
The pros for me on the 2020 was, you've mentioned it, it felt a little more racy, but with the suspension feeling a little bit stiffer, I feel like I was able to pound whoops a little harder, but I was also able to actually jump and double some of the whoops, whereas on the 19, I feel like it absorbed a lot of that. So I liked the fact that I feel like I could ride this bike faster, and I would want to race this bike, whereas this one was just a good all-around everything bike that I could trail ride. I could race it, but that one I would feel more comfortable racing it and riding faster, I would say.
And mine are pretty much the same. It's kind of a broken record. The suspension is obviously stiffer. You notice that right when you get on the bike. And that translates directly to confidence, I feel like, when you're riding high speed, stuff like that. More of a race pace type scenario. So I would say confidence inspiring is the best way to describe this. And then another standout for me is just the engine. It revved and revved and revved. And yeah, on a 250F, you're shifting more than maybe some other bikes, but I felt like this one would hold a gear a little bit longer than the 19. That kind of speaks to what you were feeling earlier as kind of a con on the 19. So yeah, I think we kind of noticed the same thing. It's almost the same conclusion, where you can definitely tell that Yamaha, when Honda released their RX, that's kind of the vibe we got from them, is it was more directed at racing, and I feel like that's what this is kind of an answer to that move from Honda and the other manufacturers that are building off-road specific bikes. It feels more racy. So let's talk about a conclusion. What do you think?
So for me, like I just said, is if I were to be racing, the 2020 would definitely be the bike that I would want to be riding. If you're not doing a lot of racing, I don't think it's worth going from a 19 to a 2020. They were both really awesome bikes. They both felt super planted in every situation that we put ourselves in. But it was, yeah, they were both awesome. I'd say the 2020 is just a little bit more racy. So one thing that is convenient about the 2020 is the fact that it has the tuner app that allows you to adjust the fuel injection and the ignition timing of the bike right from the smartphone app. And then there's the 2-map options on the handlebars. That's really nice.
So you can switch on the fly, which is super nice.
Yeah. And then on the 19, you can still tune it. You just need the tuner, the Yamaha Power Tuner to be able to do it.
And that's something that you got to buy separately, which is a downside unless you have access to one through a buddy or your local shop or somebody else. But it does limit you a little bit.
Yeah.
But really, those are the biggest standouts. Like, more racy overall, stiffer suspension, the engine definitely revs and feels a little more lively, I would say. And then you do get the upgraded electronics, basically the Wi-Fi, the button on the handlebars, and that's all great and fun. So in conclusion with these two bikes, I would say that for someone like me who likes to race off-road, likes to always be riding aggressively, hit stuff hard, I think the 2020 is a really just cool bike. I love that Yamaha did all the upgrades that they have for this bike in 2020, and I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. For the 19, it is an awesome all-around bike, and if you can find a used one that's pretty cheap and you're not doing as much racing, it would totally be a killer deal. You would love it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'd say that the 19 is awesome. It's not that much, it's not that the 2020 is that much better, but I'd say the 2020 Yamaha went in the right direction with it. For people that are racing, and I felt that I liked the 2020 more just because it felt more nimble, a little bit lighter, and was able to be a little racier. I'm not racing as much as Wes is, but I did like having that, you know, that more nimble feel. But the 2019 is awesome still. I don't think there's that much of a difference. They're both great bikes to get into riding. You're gonna love either one of these.
Cool. So that does it for our day out here. We've had a fun and I think successful day down here in southern Utah, and hopefully some of our thoughts and feelings on the bikes will help you make a decision whether you're trying to decide to upgrade or just get into a bike, or hopefully this video is just entertaining if that's what you're doing. So subscribe to our channel for more cool videos like this. Thanks for watching.